Yeah, Katie.
I wasn't here last week.
Yeah, then yes, sir. That Grace or Cheryl, yes. Where we stop, yes.
We were talking about the perfection of wisdom, and we were talking about duality, and how the generic image is a manufactured image of the real object, but it's not the memory.
Then?
We ended by talking about forgetting. Forgetting is not knowing, it contradicts knowing. When the mind loses the experience, we forget.
Before there was this somehow very familiarity. We become more familiar with emptiness. Do you have that? Oh, that part is the main thing, I think.
When the more familiar we become with emptiness, the less we experience duality.
Oh, duality then?
And the less we're dependent on reasoning to regain the experience.
Number 2. Then 3?
And the less we need to rely on the description of emptiness as a secondary aid.
That gradually. And then understandings or awareness or experience of emptiness becomes more and more, comes more effortlessly. Right. Not only during the formal meditation session, but also in our everyday life, right? The awareness, or at least thought of emptiness comes more rapidly, more effortlessly, and then through which we see the things or object are unusually less solid, less concrete. Almost there is no basis on things or object, right? To what? To hold or to grasp onto with the emotions of attraction or emotions of repulsion. Alright? Your mind or perception becomes more and more flexible. How you personally what?
Need or want? Need or want?
How you personally what? View or see.
Oh,
Instead of the things or object themselves imposes you or forces you to see only in that way or only in that way with no other what? Choices. Oh, that right. Now, again, through studying and learning, right, we can have good understandings of what is emptiness and tendel. Tongpa tendel. Tongpa, T-O-N-G, Tongpa means emptiness. Tendel, T-E-N-D-R-E-L, tendel means interdependent. Tongpa tende. Alright. Now through studying and learning, Right? We can have good understandings of what is tongpa, which means emptiness, and what is the tendel,
Interdependent.
interdependent. Right. More individually or what separately. Make sense? One can have good understandings of what is emptiness and what is interdependent origination. Separately or individually, which means is
You know exactly what they are, and also you can know like how they complement each other, like how they
what
like you knowing them individually, like you know what they means, like what dependent arising means and what emptiness means individually, but also you'll be able to know like how they work together, how they
that individually means what? Individually or separately. Individually, right, you know what is emptiness and what is dependent origination. You know individually what emptiness really means and what interdependent origination really what means. However, you don't see these two are cohesive. You don't see that,
cohesiveness.
and you don't see the cohesiveness of those two. And you don't see that those two are the characteristics of the same thing. Those two are the two different aspects of the same thing. As long as you think, as long as what? As long as you think that, right? As long as you see these two are what?
Two different things, or
contradictory. And then as long as you think, right? As long as you think that in the interdependently originated thing that's capable to function, right? Cannot possess, or cannot have, or cannot be what? Empty. Because they're what?
They're functioning.
Because they're functioning. Right. Similarly, right, if you think that things and objects are empty, right, then as long as you see the emptiness of things and objects, and then you don't think that thing and object possesses interdependence. What's it? No. As long as you see the emptiness of things and objects, then You think that thing and object cannot be what?
Interdependently existent.
Yeah, dependently or dependently.
Originated.
As long as you see the emptiness of all things in the object, and then you think that things in the object cannot have the what? Functional what? Quality, functional property, functional what? Characteristics. Yeah, can they read that way? Yes.
Through studying and learning, we can have a good understanding of tomba or emptiness and tendo, interdependent origination, separately or individually. But we don't see the cohesiveness of those two. Those two are characteristics of the same thing. They are two different aspects of the same thing. As long as we see those two as contradictory, as long as we think the interdependent originated thing is capable to function, but cannot be empty because they are functioning. Similarly, if we think things and objects are empty, then as long as we see the emptiness of the things and objects, we don't see them as not having functional qualities.
Then we see what?
If we see them as empty, we don't see their functional quality. We don't see them as having functional qualities.
Yeah, functional quality. Because they're two what? Contradicts. And because we see that these two things are impossible for the what?
Possible.
For the characteristics of the same object.
Right. Just to us, like it appears as those two interdependent origination and the emptiness refers to two different entities, two separate entities.
Yeah, two individually, yes. Right. Alright. As long as we have that what?
Perception.
That perception or that problem, right, then, right, our understandings of emptiness as well as understandings of in the dependent originations are not what? Complete. Are not what? Complete. Right. Therefore, in the Lama Tsongkhapa was writing the Lamzo Namsum, three principal aspects of the path, Lamzo Namsum, where Lama Tsongkhapa opened this in a discussion on emptiness and interdependent origination. Right? In that section, you can find Nangwa Tende Luwa Mebatang, Tongba Kilente Kowani, Jisi Sosur Nawa, Desitu, Tadung Tube Komba Tokwane. Right? Which means you have yet to realize the ultimate thought of the Buddha on what?
Emptiness.
Emptiness.